When your console is in its first year, you really want to make a big impression, really dig your claws into the minds of any potential buyers. Ways to do this include having must-have titles at launch, such as maybe a big up-and-coming release, or having a well-rounded first year covering all kinds of genres and franchises. When Nintendo released the Switch, they intended to go all in on the first year with both Mario and Zelda making an appearance. Of course, there was one game that no one expected to see this early into the fledgling console's lifecycle, and here it was being announced alongside the console and releasing in its first year. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the second game to carry on the Xenoblade name but the first to use the number to do so, launched in December of 2017 after many feared it would be delayed endlessly. Sporting a new world, new characters, and entirely new gameplay systems, but the same focus on exploring large environments, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 promised to be another big entry into the Switch's library. Coming off the well-received but overall divisive Xenoblade Chronicles X, does Monolith Soft come out of the Switch-shaped gate swinging, or should this one go back and hide behind its giant-breasted blade and stay out of sight? Xenoblade Chronicles 2 stars the unlikely salvager boy Rex as he drifts about the cloud sea of Alrest just trying to make a living. He gets handpicked by the chairman of Argentum, the trading hub of Alrest, for a special job, a job only someone from Rex's hometown of Letheria could complete. With an ungodly amount of gold on the line, Rex accepts and then finds himself biting off a bit more than he can chew. The crew he was hired by betrays him and leaves him for dead, causing him to forge a bond with Pyra, a being known in the land of Alrest as a Blade, beings that bond themselves to a human and allow their partners, who is known as that Blade's driver, to fight like they never could otherwise. Now, Pyra isn't just any old blade, she's the Aegis, a legendary blade of unfathomable power. Now that he and Pyra are now a driver and blade, the entire world is against them as they race to the fabled lands of Elysium to find answers to the problems facing the world. It just so happens Elysium lies at the top of the World Tree, a fantastical structure sitting at the center of the world. Our boy and his new superpowered girl have a long road ahead of them. Just like with Xenoblade Chronicles, the story is refreshingly similar to a PlayStation or PlayStation 2 JRPG, full of twists, turns, and plenty of emotional events. The story is just as well written as the originals, and with just as interesting of a world. Alrest is similar to the world of Bionis and the Mechonis, only the beings being lived on, known here as Titans, are still very much alive and wander about the Cloud Sea, circling the looming World Tree. While Alrest is an in-game map, the world is constantly shifting thanks to this, and it just adds a unique flavor to the world. The party you come across here, numbering only 5 this time around, are just as lovable as before, with their small number bolstered by the many, many unique blades you can acquire throughout your journey. More on that later. Unlike the first game, however, the story is very much centered around the characters, namely Rex and Pyra, and everything that happens, all the events that occur to forward the relationship between the party. It's a much more personal story compared to the original. The end of Alrest, which is huge for JRPGs, is a byproduct of the relationship between boy and blade. Overall, the world of Alrest brings with it the same level of intrigue and awe as the Bionis and Mechonis did way back when, and Rex and Pyra's story is just as interesting and engaging. The same levels of intelligence, tragedy, and thought are ahead here as well. That part is still very much Xeno, asking some interesting questions with some interesting answers from some of the characters involved. The game is a bit more modern anime than Xenoblade Chronicles was, with a few scenes you could call ecchi or pervy, but they don't intrude that much and feel natural with the characters involved. Still, if those kind of scenes do bother you, there are a handful of them here. Regardless, this is very much worthy of being a sequel to Xenoblade story-wise, and the driver-blade dynamic is an interesting idea of a concept to explore. As with the original Xenoblade Chronicles, the gameplay is split into combat and roaming about a gigantic and varied world. That much hasn't changed when the giant number 2 got added to the title. Starting with the exploration, the world is just as large as it was before, only this time the way it is laid out is a bit more complicated and nuanced. There is a lot more verticality in all zones, and each zone is a different Titan, offering its own varied sights and sounds with its own unique style and layout. For example, the Titan of Gormott, the first you travel to, is very similar to a place like Gower Plains from the original, only with a lot more verticality, and the Titan Uriah is more like a bowl with a large, deep center and climbing areas around it. Each place offers its own challenge to travel, and each place has its own visual style. As far as getting around itself, it's much the same as the original, with the running and jumping feeling identical. The difference here comes with field skills, treasure chests, and collection points. Collection points replace the random items strewn about the world, boiling them down to spots that replenish upon return visits, and chests are what they sound like, holding plenty of loot in the form of money, core crystals, ox cores, accessories, or core chips. Core chips, accessories, and ox cores act as equipment for the party, and core crystals are items that give you new blades. The way they do so is not exactly the best way to do it, as it uses a gacha system where a core crystal will roll for a blade when used. We'll talk more about this a bit later. The field skills are the big new addition to the exploration, and they are also a fairly mixed bag. What these are actions that affect the world, whether they be opening a locked chest, sealed crate, burning roots, or jumping high, and they require a skill check from your equipped blades. Each one will require different skills, and if all your blades' skills match or exceed the requirement, you'll pass. This is to encourage raising multiple blades and keeping ones with different skills on hand, but it is fairly tedious as they need to be engaged with the driver for their contribution to count. Still, it's not terribly affecting, and completionists will be able to locate them with ease as they are marked on your map. So while they suck, they aren't game ruining or anything. On the subject of combat, boy is this one different compared to the original. At first glance, the combat system might look similar, but in reality, it can't be further from it. Here, each character has 3 arts assigned to them, assigned to the X, Y, and B, and your auto attacks are consistent with a set string. The big gimmick here is that you want to use a driver art as your auto attacks connect, making your art stronger and raising the bond between the driver and blade. You see, the blades are not the combatants and are instead, literally, the driver's weapons. You'll want to remain close to your blade, as remaining close will link the two together, allowing you to use blade specials with the A button. The gauge will fill as you use driver arts, filling more when you time the attacks well, and using one will start a blade combo. Blade combos are elemental combos that are triggered by using different tiers of specials. As you fight and hold on to your special attack, it'll grow in power, making the attack stronger. To start a blade combo, you need to be at least tier 1, obviously, and to continue you need to reach 2, and then 3. You can order your allies to use their stored specials to continue the chain, as long as they are the proper elements, and each elemental route also offers different debuffs once complete. The chain ends at 3, and once you reach it, massive damage is dealt to the enemy, and they get an orb circling them. The elemental orbs circling the enemies boost their resistance to specials of that element, but also leave them open to chain attacks. When the party gauge is full, also used for reviving, similar to the original game, you can activate a chain attack letting you use a blade special for free. If you and your allies coordinate your attacks and manage to use enough specials to break an orb, you'll deal catastrophic damage and get to go another round. The more orbs the enemy has, the more chances to break them and the longer you can go. It's tough to wrap your head around, but it's a satisfying thing to pull off. Each blade also has its own role from among 3 roles: healer, attacker, and tank, making a good party composition matter. Other than that, you can assign 3 blades to each driver and can swap them out in combat, offering plenty of flexibility. This is one of the more engaging battle systems in JRPGs, but it does take some getting used to. Once you get it down, it's incredibly engaging and gratifying. Monolith took a chance making this foreign, rhythm-based combat system, and it really paid off. This is an example of unique being incredibly fun. As mentioned prior, this game has a gacha system regarding its blades, which are born from core crystals. Once activated, a core crystal will either give you a common blade, a weaker blade used to fill ranks in case you don't earn anything better, or a rare blade, a stronger, more fleshed out blade that is not only better gameplay wise, but is also a unique character as well. There are 3 tiers of core crystals: common, rare, and legendary, and each will offer a blade, with each tier offering a greater chance of getting a rare. This is an interesting system to use for a single player JRPG, especially since you can't spend money to buy core crystals, but it does get rather annoying seeing as content is locked behind the rare blades. Not only are the rare blades stronger and unique looking, they also have side quests and more nodes to unlock in the Infinity Chart. More on that in a tiny bit. This means you might have to grind for hours to unlock more rare blades to unlock more content, and this grinding isn't even a guarantee. You may get unlucky and just never get any rares. It actually happened during this current playthrough for this review. I wasn't getting many despite using plenty of cores, including legendary cores offered by the expansion pass. Even with this legendary head start, my rare blade army is smaller than it was on my first time through the game. It's completely random outside a selection of pity blades. It's an unfortunate thing that holds the game back, though not enough to truly damage the game. Now, outside this, the affinity board returns, but in a different manner than before. Instead of holding the chart of relationships with the settlements you come across and showing the bonds within your party, each character has one this time. For the drivers, it's a little more than a skill tree you dump points earned in battle into. For the blades, it's a whole checklist of mini objectives that is unlocked further and further by becoming closer to your trusty super weapon people. The more you use them in battle, the more the board expands. The more objectives you complete for them, the stronger they become. It's different, but still enjoyable in a different way. Replacing the old affinity board is what's known as a development level. Each Titan has their own, and this is side quests, talking to NPCs, buying things, or completing mercenary missions. Mercenary missions are missions you send your spare blades on and are completed after a set period of time, offering rewards and experience for your blades and mercenary level. The higher the level, the more missions you can complete. Raising the development level in each Titan can increase the amount of items you can buy, and if you buy one of everything from a store, you can then purchase a buff from them. Like before, this is a gigantic game, and it's mostly all engaging and enjoyable. I don't think I really need to say anything on the subject, but Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is absolutely gorgeous. The world of Alrest is incredibly varied Titan by Titan, and the sights and sounds each one holds make Xenoblade Chronicles 2 one of the most attractive JRPGs out there. The vertical design of most Titans makes for some spectacular vistas, and the plant life and monsters make for a lively world. Textures can be rough here and there, and sometimes textures take a second to load in, but once you are out and about, it's beautiful. Now, it's not as nice looking world-wise as Xenoblade Chronicles X, but one area it surpasses X in is the character models. The character models in Chronicles and X are rough, to put it lightly. Now, in X they look fine standing still, but as soon as they open their mouths, things got a little awkward looking. Here, they are proper cel-shaded character models and they look fantastic. One thing that can look odd, however, are the clashing art styles. Each blade is designed by a different artist, outside of the main characters that is, and some can look a tad odd. Thankfully, they look fine in-game, but the art in the menus can look a little jarring. The animation for cutscenes is also a nice step up, with some excellently choreographed cutscenes and some truly believable facial expressions. The lip sync isn't quite up to snuff when it comes to the English dub, but when playing in Japanese, it's fairly perfect. Another thing that's knocked out of the park is the music, which follows the path of the original rather than X. The music fits the mood perfectly, elevating the emotional scenes, and is another excellent addition to any video game connoisseur's library. Though I can't say the same thing about the English voice acting. Unlike the original, which has excellent English voice acting, the actors they got here all sound emotionless, especially Rex. this is one of the rare instances where I switched to Japanese fairly early and never looked back. Overall, the game is gorgeous and the music is incredible. The voice acting is just hit or miss in English. Of course, not everything is perfect. As mentioned, the gacha system is frustrating and can make you miss content, which sucks. Other than that, you move a tad slow in combat, which can feel uncomfortable at first, and sometimes the layout of the environment gets in the way. Some of the titans are quite maze-like, causing you to easily get lost and spend loads of time trying to find your way and not get pissed off by the overly aggressive enemies. Other than that, the resolution and frame rate can get quite bad, especially in handheld mode. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 also has the same problem as the original game with its items. The game just throws and throws items at you, and most of it isn't worth it at all. The game also has a large learning curve, potentially throwing some people off. Thankfully, what's wrong doesn't really impact things at all thanks to the game's many strengths. In the end, despite seeming like Monolith rushed to market with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, that's sorta true with the rough performance issues and quality of life problems at launch, the rush paid off as we were graced with one of the finest JRPGs since the original Xenoblade Chronicles. While that might not sound like much, I think it means a lot, as I personally feel this is one of the finest games ever made. The engaging and emotional personal story, lovable characters, beautiful world, interesting blade concept, amazing music, and satisfying combat really elevate this sequel to a higher level. It won't be for everyone thanks to a slower start, both story and gameplay wise, but Rex and Pyro's quest for paradise is a modern classic, and one to remind us that the art of the JRPG is not dead. Small, nagging issues such as the gacha system and poor, in my opinion, English voice acting don't do much to hinder it, as it's just that well crafted, addicting, and fun. At the top of the world tree in the fields of Elysium, Rex and Pyro discover a shining and glorious 10 out of 10. There are few left that can reach even the lows of Monolith Soft, fewer still that can reach their highs.